Hello and welcome to another On This Day in Canadian Military History Livestream Battle Series, or OTD Battle Series, I believe. Livestream Battle Series is what I've called it. I'm just going to start off with a quick introduction. For those of you who don't know who I am and might be stumbling on this live stream after. My name is Brad St. Croix. I hold a PhD in history, military history, Canadian, from the University of Ottawa. So I've studied all manner of battles of Canada, particularly the World Wars. So one of the ones that I've studied probably the most outside of my academic work is the Battle of Ortona, subject for today. And one of the reasons why I gave it as one of the options to people last time. So we shall get into it in a second here. So Zuehlke, one of my great supporters and helped me get it, is that the camera, he mentions a new camera. It didn't come for whatever reason. I didn't get a reason. It didn't show up when it was supposed to, so I'm not using it. So today I am using a new laptop. So maybe it's the laptop that's good. Anyway, I still have it coming. So maybe if this is good enough, maybe I can just cancel the order and get my money back. Anyway, so new computer. So if there's anything going wrong, anything wrong with the sound or anything like that, please let me know at any time. Same old microphone. I'm just not sure how this one handles live streams and everything like that, because my old one was real bad. Anyway, so good to have everybody here, live stream. So we've only done one of these before. We did one on Carpiquet. So it was a bit of a different battle, different part of the ETO. As always, if you have questions or comments or anything like that, fire away at any time. So what I was going to do with this one is kind of do it chronologically. I'm not going to do like an in-depth on Ortona per se. There's a few things I'm going to highlight a bit louder. Okay. Is that better? We can try to get a little closer. It's not a new one, so is that good? Is that better? Just let me know. Also, because I think my new laptop, the fan is going a little crazy with all the stuff I have attached, so I may have to remove stuff because it might not be doing so good. Anyway, that's better. Perfect. So Ortona, what was I saying? So I'm not gonna do like nitty gritty kind of thing here. That's been done in other places very well. I'm going to talk about some other things I do think you should check out in terms of that. Mark Zuehlke's book, which I've been using for this and all that other stuff, a little different way of going about it. So I'm not going to do that. I have some ideas of what I want to do. And again, we'll see how this goes and where questions go and everything like that. But there's a few things I want to highlight that are a little different, I think, than the standard sort of Ortona narrative. As much as there is one, it's not much, but there is one. So there's a few things I want to highlight about that battle and things just surrounding it that I kind of want to talk about a little bit more. So that being said, let's get into it. So I'm just reading some of the comments. Good timing, Alex, to be reading about Hoffmeister's time as the Brigadier. Again, not going to get into that kind of thing as much. You'll see what I mean once I get into it. Because I found some stuff pretty late last minute, and I think it's good. And it'll make for really interesting stuff. Just as I make this noted here, also I can check back later. Really excited for this, but like more content about Leary Valley battles. Okay, that's noted. And let me talk a bit about at the end about kind of moving forward stuff on that. Okay, so I want to start. Hold on here. Let me get showing here. Oh. Sorry, 1 second, everybody. Stop screen. Sorry, I'm sharing the wrong one. There we go. Sorry, the new laptop was not adjusting well. Okay, so this one, I picked it out. I don't know the camera settings. Sorry, I'm still reading comments here. I have one that's better resolution coming, but if everyone likes the quality on this one, I can just cancel the order. It was supposed to be here, but it didn't show up. So I'm not sure. I didn't check the camera settings on this new laptop because I was going to buy a new one. So I wasn't sure. But there are other ways people can do more. Lots more doing with 4K and things like that on YouTube. So that's awesome. Anyway, so here's just an overall map of the situation. Actually, the 26th of October. Sorry, December. Get mixed up with my months. 1943. So this is literally as the fight in Ortona is still going on. Like this is the last day of the fighting. And then it says heaviest here. So this is just a broad overview showing where everything is in terms of this, right? So this is the Canadians are part of 8th Army at this point, as they will be for quite some time in Italy. So they're in this particular part of the fighting. They're in the 5th British Corps, and just overall with the strategy, Montgomery wanted to push across the Moro River, which you can see here. Again, this is all better explained in some other stuff. I'll link some more stuff later, and I'll get into that in a bit. But I did some work on this with Project 44 a while back, and I do more detail there about this. But so I just wanted to kind of give a broad overview right now. So the idea is to push across the Sangro, move up north, piercing the German defenses, and then pivot and then attack Rome. Not the best idea, but nevertheless, that was Montgomery's plan. It doesn't quite work. For all kinds of reasons, but yeah, lots going on here. So this is just moving in more towards the Canadian involvement here. So this is one of the maps I'll probably be using for here on out for a little bit. Again, if my computer can take it, because it's also hot where I'm in the room I'm in. I'm on my 3rd floor, so it's a bit toasty. So anyway, so this is kind of the map showing overall. I'll leave that up so you can get a good look at it. Yeah, general mode, exactly, Alex. That's what happens. And that's one of the things I want to focus on is the Ortona salient, which hardly ever gets discussed, but that'll be towards the end. So anyway, so this is just showing the general advance of the 8th Army and kind of where the Canadians' 1st Division come into play. Sorry, just let me get my notes up. So what's going on here is the idea, and what the Germans had been doing as the advances come, is they would offer resistance up to a certain point and then pull back to a better line as the pressure has started to build. As a lot of you know, Italy in this particular part, but in a good chunk of the the peninsula, is crossed by all kinds of rivers, right? And all these names become synonymous to those who know the Italian campaign. I mean, the Sangro River is mentioned in the song, the D-Day Dodgers, that kind of thing. So the fighting is very difficult. So that was the thinking, right? Is they'll pull back and they'll just keep pulling back, because the fight for the Moro River is one of the tougher fights that the Canadians have, because that's what they have to launch, right? That's where the sort of Ortona chapter, I would say, I don't think I'm the only one, would say this is where it starts. And you can see it here, is the Canadian brigades of the 1st Division have to fight across the Moro River to start to move forward and then move towards Ortona. So I found some interesting quotes, and that's kind of one of the things I wanted to piece in here today, because there's quite a few of them on Ortona, because Andreas mentioned something really interesting about Monte Cassino, and I want to talk about that later, about what's known and what's not known, right? And things in Canada tend to be different. So this is one in particular that's better known in Canada, right? Monte Cassino doesn't get as much attention. So this is a quote from a soldier of the Three Rivers Regiment talking about Montgomery. So the site that they're on, I can link it after, is Memory from what was it called? Memory Project from the people who do the Canadian Encyclopedia, which is great. So they also, which is interesting, they mark it saying this is the soldier's opinion. This is what they believed in the situation. It doesn't necessarily reflect the truth of the situation. So I thought this one was too good not to include today. So, and this is quoting from him. His name's Arnold, or as we went by his nicknames, as many so did, McCord of the Three Rivers Regiment, the tank regiment used that was involved in the actual fighting inside Ortona. So this is quoting him. Some of these are a bit lengthy, so just bear with me for a bit. So we moved up through that and up to Ortona. And in Ortona, there was a screw up because the British General Montgomery, he said Ortona is going to be tough. The German panzers and bracket tanks are there, and the German paratroopers, the Fallschirmjäger. So he said, and this is quoting McCord again. So he said, we'll send the Canadians in, and he said, we'll take it in hand-to-hand fighting. They're tough. Now, we could have blasted the place off the map, but Montgomery wanted hand-to-hand fighting. He said Canadians will handle it. We went in there and we lost a lot of men needlessly and whatnot, but that went on all throughout the war. So it's an interesting thing that's part of the historiography of all of this is, was it even necessary? It's Historica Canada. Yeah, sorry, that's where they come from. The quotes come from Historica Canada, run through the encyclopedia, which is great. Where I got these from. They changed their websites. Last time I was working on this, they've changed it since then. So my old links and everything were no good. So it was kind of annoying. So where was I? Yes. So the quote about, was Ortona even necessary? In a way, no. I mean, again, I'm not an expert on this one like I am with some other ones more intensely. I have looked at this one quite a bit. It's not like I've done the primary research is what I'm talking about. I haven't done that to that extent. I've just done the kind of the battle stuff to that extent. So again, that's why I like doing these types of shows, right? Is to bring in opinions and insights from you guys, because I know a lot of you guys are very knowledgeable in this stuff. Some of you just want to come in and learn, and some of you know lots of stuff. So I like sharing those as well. So, and Alex is bringing up one of the points. So I just want to finish reading what he wrote. Yeah. So one of the things that is said to be the importance of Ortona is its ability as a port. That's said to be one of the reasons. They're going to develop. Oh, hey, Angela. No worries about being late. We're just getting started. Yeah. So that was one of the ideas, right? Have as a port on the coast is where the Canadians are hugging, right? They're hugging that Adriatic coastline of Italy right now, trying to move forward in not the best conditions. So this is a really interesting one in terms of the reasons. I mean, you can kind of see that from some of the photos. It was a harbor, wasn't very big. This is giving me, kind of reminders of Normandy here. Like some of them it was good, but not very good. And of course, there was sabotage by the Germans and that kind of thing. And plus, the fighting, as we'll get to, was just utterly brutal and did lots of damage to it. But it's a small place. It's not the most accessible place either. So its full utility as a port might not have worked out as well as they'd wanted. And again, that's what Montgomery wanted, just to supply his army to keep pushing to Rome. But of course, as we'll get into, things didn't go to plan in that sense. Sorry, I'm just going to go back here. There's some good insights here. Yeah, so Nicholas Patton here. So thanks for joining us. Talking about defense in depth is what the Germans were doing at this point in Italy and for most of it, right? With artillery causing all kinds of things. And another area in particular I want to talk about that doesn't get as much attention for Ortona as I think it should. So Andreas from Germany. So again, thanks for joining me, Andreas. Been a great supporter of the channel. Only stumbled upon it last year. Yeah, because Monte Cassino gets a lot of attention. I mean, they're pivots of the line of the defenses, right? Because of all kinds of reasons. But it's interesting that they're linked together. So that's definitely something I want to get into a little bit later. Sorry, 1 second. Sorry if the internet's also not so good. I'm still working on getting that updated. Yeah, Willie, this is the place for the Christmas dinner. And I'll get into that a little bit. Yeah, Scott. Was that the right one? Oh, no, sorry, it's not Scott. Daniel, thanks for joining us. About casualties, I'll get to that at the end. It's not clear, is basically the answer I have for you at this moment. Yes, and I'll get into Scott just about the broadcasts and things like that. Yeah, that's a really good point, Sheldrake. And again, Dave, who knows lots of this stuff and has been to these places. I don't know if he's been to Ortona or not. He can correct me if I'm wrong. But he knows this stuff better than most. Probably one of the best out there. He's right. They're trying to bypass it. It just doesn't work that way because of the road network. It's just difficult for them to try to do. They try to do it and it just fails. Yeah, that's exactly what's trying to happen. Again, there's just all these. It's no different than any other campaign, right? Like who's trying to do what, when, and where, and why. Where the records say there's conflicting records, that kind of thing. And also with the nature of, the Commonwealth armies, right? Canadians under British command, records are in different places, literally an ocean apart a lot of the time. So it causes some confusion and chaos when it comes to the research stuff. So, and with one like Ortona that gets a lot of attention, the secondary sources tend to get more cited over and over again, right? So this one needs a little bit more in-depth studying, I think, but that's just me. So the Moro River, like I said, is the difficult one. That's the one they got to cross to continue the advance. They have very difficult time doing that. The plans don't really work out as they want. Again, I don't want to go too much into these details, but I just want to highlight the importance that there is more than just the urban fighting. Actually, that's the point. I'll just make it now. Ortona is known as that, right? And it is. It's a brutal urban battle. It's not easy. Lots of casualties on both sides. But the fighting to get there is no better. It's no easy. It's not like they just waltzed on up and the Germans said, hey, let's hold Ortona. No, like there's crossing the Moro. And then there's the Gully. It doesn't even really have an official name. It's just literally called the Gully. And you can see it on another map on the side here. I think you can see it. Yeah, it's right here in this little one. I'll move forward in a bit, but it's the same map I have later. But you can see here, it's just called the Gully. That's another obstacle that is so difficult to cross and so many casualties before even getting to Ortona. So I think that kind of gets lost in the whole narrative of this urban battle and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, it's it's an important part in all of this. Sorry, I'm just getting caught up here. Only one man, I can only do so much. Yeah, so Dave's been there. Yeah, I can only imagine seeing the ground really changes perspectives on a lot of things with Ortona, especially just talking about the Gully and the rivers and all that stuff. I mean, I've seen like Google, Earth shots and pictures and things, but it's never quite what you want, right? Yes, and Nicholas Patton, Farley Mowat's books. I mean, he's an amazing writer. He was the intelligence officer as well, so he's the one writing the word diaries at certain points, and you can tell even without, because they signed a lot of them, right? A lot of them are initialized. You can just tell it's him because he writes so much better. He writes so much better than the other intelligence officers in that unit. You can just tell it's him. It's a funny story. Yeah, and bad maps. I mean, just it all goes wrong. I think it was Nicholas mentioned it earlier about pre-sighting this, the defense in depth. It's a slaughter to get there, and it's not easy. And again, that's even before the fighting. So this part of the fighting, again, this is the 3 brigades of 1st Division are in tandem working to get this all done. So getting across the Moro is not easy. The initial plan doesn't really work. They've got to work on the fly to change it. And get bridges across the river. That's a key part here. All the accounts talk about this and everything of what they need to do at this point in early December. You get across the Moro and get moving, because that's the last major obstacle, water obstacle, right, until Ortona, which was their major objective. Oh, History Explorer. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Yeah, I got the spam. I got to add new block words. Those don't come up as much. Key for anyone running a channel too. You can block words in streams, so hopefully it stops the bots better. I don't know. I'll have to add some more. Anyway, so yeah, talking about getting across the Moro, advance to the Gully. Absolutely brutal fighting. Again, doesn't go to plan. The one I do want to talk about the Gully is there's a VC action in the Gully. It's one of the ones of the Italian campaign. Paul Triquet gets the VC Victoria Cross for actions. Hopefully, my Italian is about as good as my French. Not great is what I'm trying to say. So if I've mispronounced names, I apologize. So he leads an attack with his company on one of the positions on the other side of the Moro River, and gets the Victoria Cross for that. And he's well known for a phrase here. Sorry, just let me see it here. On Casa Baretti, I hope I said that right. he's known for that. And what he says is one of the more famous quotes, and really in Canadian military history, particularly within the Canadian military. So he's quoted as saying, leading the attack, there are enemy in front of us, behind us, and on our flanks. There is only one safe place, and that is on the objective. So that's pretty motivational, I think, to getting forward and getting into that position and securing it. Because, like they said, they were surrounded on all sides, getting up in that house. So, because when I was doing the research, like I said, for Project 44 quite a while ago now, trying to find stuff on it. Oh, God, they're back again. Go away, bots. Go away, bots. Yeah, I have to fix that list later. Bots are driving me crazy. Keep throwing off my flow. Yeah. So sorry. Yeah. So Trinket gets the Victoria Cross, and he's one of the busts on the Valiance Memorial. I posted a video about. I'm not sure how long ago that was now. It's on the channel. You can check it after. He's one of the ones included, which I think is interesting, because it's French Canadian. I'm not sure why or how they went into picking those individuals, but Trinket is one of them. So I think it's just always interesting. Maybe because of that famous quote and all that stuff, but he's included on there for his actions. It is okay. I wasn't sure because oh hey Chris, thanks for coming on. Yeah, I wasn't sure because I was finding all kinds of conflicting information about the house, and it's still owned by the same family. I wasn't sure. I couldn't find much. I couldn't find wartime photos, especially. Because you got to be careful with public domain and that kind of thing when you're working on bigger projects. You don't want to cause any headaches. So I was having trouble finding those. So no, that's great to hear that you can still stay there. I thought so. I just wasn't sure, right? I don't like to say things I'm not too sure on. But that's great to know that is still a possibility to be done, because it would be a great place to visit because of this position and how important it was to take in holding this position and getting a bridgehead across the river. It's massively important in that respect. If it survived COVID, well, yeah, that's a must for everything. I don't know for sure. Somebody might be able to check it while we're doing this, but I don't know. It could be on Airbnb or whatever. I just tried to Google it when I was doing it, and I couldn't find much of anything, to be honest. So maybe not. But again, I'm just guessing. Yeah, so that's that. Hold on, let me move forward here. So this is that same one, just zoomed in a little better. So you can see the castle that we're talking about is right here on this side, where Trinket gets his Victoria Cross. And he goes on Warbine drives and all that kind of stuff, especially as a French-Canadian officer. He's very popular for that. So we're moving closer to Ortona. Again, not easy. The gully, as you can see it here in better detail. Again, not marked in any way on the maps. The lack of the road causes an issue. They're trying to flank it and get to the crossroads, as Sheldrick just mentioned a minute ago, which does not go well. The attacks don't go as planned, as tends to happen. So they fight very hard for the gully, getting across, and eventually do hold on to a position. The fighting, and I think this is an important point here, and again, why earlier I mentioned all three brigades are involved in this. It's not just the ones in Ortona. That's another thing I want to get across, right? I tend to say sometimes it's just the brigade or the division. I think sometimes you got to kind of get them all involved here because it's necessary to connect all it together because they're all involved in this particularly difficult fighting to take Ortona. Yeah, the brigade, second brigade that is in Ortona suffers heavily, but so do the others. So much so that third brigade here, it takes such a wallop, they have to suspend operations. So it doesn't quite go again to plan. This takes so much longer than they're anticipating. Yeah, this is a bit of an aside, but fair enough. Americans took Rome after the Canadians did the hard work in a lot of ways, yes. A question about the Leary Valley earlier. A lot of upset about that. Canadians being pulled off the line before the liberation of Rome and not, being part of that whole operation. I mean, for someone jumps on me, there are Canadians there. First Special Service Force is there, but having the Canadians do that slogging and then set aside, it really ruffled some feathers. Would not be I don't think that's going to happen, Susan, unfortunately. I don't even know how we would go about doing that. It's just not enough of us. But that is funny. Yeah, that made me chuckle, Susan. Thank you. Anyway, so this is the moving up into the town. We're getting closer to that. Closer to the 20th is when all of this really starts to get going. Sorry, I'm delayed on the comments, guys. That's why I have to keep coming back to them. But because I'm not using YouTube, I'm using a different software. It's a Mark Clark special. Yeah, not a popular man for all kinds of reasons, mostly his own doing. But yeah, it was Mark Clark's decision, keeping the Canadians out of Rome. Yeah, we're really getting ahead of ourselves here. Maybe we can do that another time, schedule permitting. Yeah, so that's let's try to focus here for a minute. So they have to take a rest and try to move around the gully. That's how eventually they can crack that position and move around, and that's what it takes. So 1st Brigade kind of jumps in. They finally get the crossroads that are necessary after establishing that position to help get across. So it's again difficult fighting. This is all difficult fighting. Artillery, it doesn't go as what they would like. Tank support only does so much. It's a very difficult position to hold. Sorry, position to take. The Germans do a fantastic job of holding this position and using every scrap of land to really hold on. It's really coming to. I already said it, Alex. You're behind. Sorry, still talking about Rome. I said, don't jump on me. I said First Special Service Force was in there. I said that. I think you've done that before, so that's why I think I said it. Alex is our Italy guy, so he's always keeping me honest. Yes, Pulse took Monte Cassino. And Andre, it's just what I was saying here with the Gully. It's the ground defense the ground is so well to defend. I mean, it's like it was made for that. It's crazy. It's so defensible. You can dig in, and that's what they did, right? You can dig in, camouflage positions, reverse slope on a gully. I mean, they have all kinds of trouble with this stuff. It takes all kinds of coordinated efforts. So again, that's what they're trying to do here is flank, and then they move into Ortona. Again, numbers of casualties is very high for this type of operation. Yeah, you got to pay attention. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. We were there, but in a very small number, and it's not mentioned ever, right? Other than the Canadians bringing it up now and again. Okay, so like I said, the fighting to get across the gully is not easy. Very difficult. All kinds of things. So I found an account from one of the tank regiments, not the Three Rivers, the Calgarys, who were involved. And it's kind of brutal, the account, but I think it's important to kind of get across what I'm talking about here. It's a long, lengthy part of his account that he gives, but it's worth looking at and hearing. So I'm going to just read it all out as I can. So this is Dave Ewert from the 4th Canadian Regiment, 14th Canadian Armored Regiment, the Calgary Regiment. So, and I quote, "We were sent up to a gully and they called it Vino Ridge. It was actually a gully that went from Ortona to San Leonardo. And that was the German front line, and they were behind this gully. So we went up to support. I think it was the PPCLI, the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, and they made a frontal attacks on this gully. And the Germans were behind the gully and just wiped them out. I recall one morning we were up supporting the PPCLI, and quite a few of them were wounded. 2 were left on the ridge with their legs blown off, or one leg blown off, and they kicked their leg all day. You couldn't get them out because of the snipers. The Red Cross stretcher bearers went up twice to try and rescue the 2 wounded right up in the front, but the Germans kept firing on them. So they had to come back, and those poor guys just lay there all day, kicking their leg, and they were rescued at night. And the other chap came in front of the tank. I thought he had a red handkerchief hanging down in his front, but I found out it was his stomach hanging out, and he fell on the track right in front. We couldn't get out to get him because they were just as soon as you popped your head out of the tank, the snipers would just fire at you. And he only lasted a few minutes, and he died. We could see his breast getting shorter and shorter in the cold weather." So that one's chilling. I've never read that account before. So I think this kind of encapsulates what's going on here, the difficulty of the fighting, everything going on, and getting to Ortona. That's what I wanted to kind of highlight here, is getting to Ortona. Yeah, the easy part of the Gully. Yeah, and from that account, not so easy. Not so easy at all. Very difficult. And Great Dominion makes a good point here. I mean, a lot of you who have been following me for a while know my opinions on a lot of the supposed elite enemy troops or elite troops in general. So the German paratroopers of the 1st Division, so I'll get to that in a second. But the idea that they are some of the best, I think they are. I mean, these guys are trained very well. The Fallschirmjägers, as they're known. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. That's how I've always heard it. Yeah, they fight like they're difficult, stubborn fighters, but not to the point of fanaticism and stupidity like some other politically motivated units. They fight smart. They fight hard, but they fight smart. That's the problem, right? They keep falling back. They keep falling back to good positions. That makes your life miserable. And Ortona is no different. It just keeps going and going and going and going. It's just constant going on here. So that account there, right, of those snipers making their lives difficult and killing those men easily. It's like a turkey shoot, right? Getting hemmed into these areas. There's nowhere to go. It's so difficult. Sorry, I'm just catching up with the comments again. Yeah, there are Canadians at Casino. Yeah, there is fighting. There's Canadians in the area. They're just not there for the taking of Casino, right? That's after, like they're on the shoulder, right? As we call it, the Leary Valley. We don't call it Casino. Keeps coming up. Yeah, I'd like to go too, Andreas. It would be awesome. Yeah, that's why, again, I love doing these live streams. You learn things about what everyone's got going on. Yeah, Andreas, I don't think you're going to Stalingrad anytime soon. I mean, you could, but I don't know if it's a good idea. Yeah, Monte Casino is very possible. I think they're open up again, aren't they? Tourists are allowed back in Italy. I could be wrong. Anyway, so moving into Ortona itself, this is, again, very, very difficult. So I can get down to the battalion level now with the Edmontons are the ones coming up into the town on the 20th of December. Now, I'm just going to stop right there real quick. So what I've linked down below is Project 44. If you haven't heard of them before, yes, I have done work with them in the past and in the future. I'm not like, they don't tell me to say anything like this, but they do amazing work. I wasn't part of the project to do, the main web map, as it's called. It wasn't me. I wasn't part of that. I did some other work. I can link that later. That's what I was talking about. Now, why I wanted to mention this, I was going to do it and show you, but again, I wasn't too sure if my Wi-Fi could handle it. I get new hardware, and then, the Wi-Fi craps out on me. You can see these units moving, right? Because they're mapped based on the locations in the war diaries. So if you want to understand how this whole thing develops, that's your best bet, is go to Project 44, which I've linked down below. You can toggle it for Northwestern Europe, starting with with D-Day on the 6th, or you can toggle it for Italy, which starts with Sicily. So you can pick Italy, you can pick whatever day you want, you can pick whatever unit you want. It goes down to the battalion level, also to the field regiment level with artillery, and a few other units. They're adding more all the time, and support them if you can, because they do amazing work that no one else is doing. Nothing going on like this. So check that out. I wanted to show you, but again, I'm having Wi-Fi trouble right now, so I don't want to mess up the stream. But that is the best way. That's what I was using, just to double check my notes and make sure I wanted to cover everything I wanted to, is using Project 44, because it shows you how these things are moving. It's amazing, and I highly suggest it. But anyway, I was going to do like talk moving through. But yes, the Loyal Edmonton Regiment, the Loyal Eddies, as they are called or nicknamed, still are. Yeah, so they move in on the 20th. So the C-Force, another great supporter of mine ever since I really started on Twitter. They're amazing out in Vancouver. Sorry, Victoria. They're going to yell at me. No, Vancouver. I think the heat's melting my brain. Out in BC, I should stop saying cities. I think they're Victoria on the island. Please correct me if I'm incorrect. The heat gets to my brain. Yeah, they launch a diversionary attack on the right side, so that you can see it right here on the 20th. It is Vancouver. One or the other. V cities that are very close to each other, except for the finicky water in the way. Yeah, it is Vancouver. Just popped in my head where the address of the armory is. Getting too ahead of myself here. Yeah, Vancouver. Thanks, guys. Yeah, so you can see the diversionary attack as the Edmontons, supported by the Three Rivers, move in. And that's where the trouble starts. Can Scots or Victoria? That's right. Yeah, literally, sorry, yeah, everyone. The address just popped in my head. I can see it again. It says Vancouver. I'm gonna get yelled at for that. Anyway, so yeah, so they're slowly moving their way in. It takes time to get into the city itself as these things happen. The Fallschirmjägers, like I said, are smart. They know what they're doing, well trained. They've created killing zones, basically. They've blocked streets, they've constricted others to force the Canadian infantry into positions. That'll make them easier to wipe them out. That's a pretty standard practice for urban warfare, still is, as we're seeing, unfortunately, in Ukraine. So what they did is they just blew houses to block them, all that kind of stuff, to set up machine gun positions. They use mines and explosives. And the piazzas, or the plazas, the squares, really become these killing zones. The one that is famous infamous in the Seaforth lore is Dead Horse Square. It's one of the piazzas in the town. We'll get to the map in a second. I just want to keep this info up a little bit longer. Becomes infamous for the casualties they take. So these squares turn into killing grounds. So what Canadians quickly learn, a couple of things, is we have some pretty good nicknames. Yeah, some pretty good regimental nicknames in Canada, right? You got the Loyal Eddies, the Vandus. That's a good one, right? Because 22 in French. All kinds of good ones. The Rileys and Hamilton. All kinds of fun stuff. They really play the names up really, really well. For those of you who don't know them as well, you can look them up. There's all kinds of crazy ones. Some of them are confusing, but it's really fun. Anyway, so the Canadians quickly learn that fighting in the open is not going to go well. So they have to change up real quick. Yeah, Hasty Peas is another one. Another good one, especially for Italy. Lots of spang in the city. Those, the pock marks, where you can see it on all kinds of things, right? Where the bullet hits and then pushes the material up. So calls it spang. There's tons of it. In Ortona, apparently, which is not unsurprising. Again, I'm not going to do like blow by blow, but I want to get at a couple of things. So the mouse holing, Clever Boys of the 48th, good old Toronto. Mouse holing. There's a lot of misconceptions about where that comes from all the time. Again, I talk about this constantly. Canadians saying we did things first. That bothers me, as it bothers so many of you, I know. This one in particular, like, the Canadians did not invent mouse holing. It was in manuals well before the war. Other people were already doing it. It's just, this is an example that got into the press, and not just the Canadian press either. And I'll get to that hopefully in a second here, but this battle becomes important because it's important. It's another one of those, right? Talking about why Ortona. Why did the Germans fight so hard for this tiny little place when they could just pull back to a better position, causing more casualties, delaying the advance as long as possible? I think that has a lot to do with why this whole mouse holing myth that Canada invented is as strong as it is. And again, it's a brutal fight. Connection to Stalingrad. It's called Little Stalingrad in the press. Of course, not on the scale of Stalingrad, because nothing is. Maybe the Battle of Berlin, but nothing close. I mean, it's called Little Stalingrad, Canada Stalingrad, that kind of thing. So the mouse holing is you blow a hole in the next building. You go through hopefully you want to get up to the top floor, and then you work your way down, right? Blow a hole with charges or whatever you've got, and go down and move your way through. So you're staying out of the streets, which I can move forward now. Got a good map here of just the congestion of the city, and some of the famous locations, and the different churches as well that become important in some of the lore and some of the stories of the battle. So it's congested. These buildings are made of stone. They're well constructed. It's a medieval city. very difficult to move through. So they mouse hole blow their way through and keep moving that way. That's how they do it. That's a really good question, GD. An excellent question, if I may call you GD. I don't know where it starts. It probably comes from the reporting. It could be Halton, who was there reporting. I think Scott mentioned earlier on the Internet Archive is the reports, which I was planning on doing something with. Now I don't think I will. And I'll talk about that at the end. That would be my guess. That's a guess. This is a complete guess. I don't know, but that's how these things tend to start. They start with the actual reporting in the press of the time and go from there. It's just one of those things that just catches on a life of its own, I think. Yeah, so it's in engineering. I've seen them all. I've seen them myself. The manuals, and they're from, like, I think the earliest one I saw was 34, something like that. Probably older, I would imagine, especially in the interwar period. It just wasn't really being used, I would say, well, in the Commonwealth armies, British Commonwealth armies especially. It's still called mouse holing. Yeah, History Explorer is a veteran. Still in the military, saying it was still called that, which does not surprise me. So also with this constricted nature of fighting, one of the things that I found most interesting, I think this was the first video I actually made. Like, I took some ones, I spliced them up, that kind of thing. But like this one I researched and dug into and found good footage and everything that I had to delete all of it. I'm going to talk about that a bit at the end. Is the use of the 6-pounders. That was fascinating. Because it's on film. They got this on film. Like, a good chunk of this is on film, right? That's why I made the video, because there was a camera crew there documenting a good chunk of this fighting. It's crazy. And you can still find it. The newsreels, maybe I'll link it after, but the newsreels showing everything that happened to Ortona are easily available online. I just put in Canadian Army newsreel Ortona. It should come right up, into YouTube even. But I can link it later. Showing what they're doing. So these, they're not big enough. The shells themselves aren't enough to get through that thick stone that these houses and buildings are made out of. But if you aim for a window, it's going to cause some havoc, right? That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to just blast their way through, get the Germans out as easily, the best way possible, with as much explosive. That's where the tanks come in, because the tanks also have trouble moving through. I mean, even the 6-pounders. I mean, it's not a gigantic gun, but it's big enough. They even have trouble with those. So getting those in was not easy. So they have to kind of keep to the outside with the tanks, providing fire support as much as they can, which you can see in the film, which is why I mentioned it. It's fantastic. You can see the Shermans firing down a street, one of the more wide open ones. It's fantastic footage of this to see how they went about fighting in Ortona. Oh, yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, we didn't invent. We keep saying we. The Canadians didn't invent it, but they certainly did it very well. It had to be like it was an adaptation moving forward, right? Different techniques. It was one of the better uses of it, right? I'm sure they did something similar at Stalingrad. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't call it that necessarily the same, but in terms of the British Commonwealth armies, yeah, this is fairly new, and they were probably one of the better ones at it. So this is the city, the difficult fighting. So what else did I say? I got the mouse holing. I want to talk about the 6-pounders. What else do I want to use? Just making sure I cover everything. Yeah, town is very shattered. Kept going. A lot of seesaw back and forth. Another nasty trick that was used was delay bombs, delay explosives. That was used by both sides. I can't remember the exact details of the circumstance, but the Germans did it with one of the buildings. The Canadians had, pushed them out of, occupied it, and explodes later, killing a whole bunch of them, wounding a whole bunch, crushing a bunch under the rubble. That went on. There's pictures of this one in particular. So the Canadians did it back to the Germans. Like, it just went back and forth, back and forth. I mean, I've heard this thing of there's a respect here between the two sides. I don't know the German side, obviously, as well. I don't know how long the term respect can be held up for the things I've read about what some of the Canadians were doing. Nothing like war crimes by any means. I mean, I'm sure there was, because there's always war crimes, but just the the thought processes of the Canadians who gave accounts then and after. It doesn't seem like they were buddy, but maybe it was a begrudging respect. I don't know, but the things like the building getting blown left a major impact on a lot of people who fought there. And another thing I wanted to talk about that hardly is ever discussed. Actually, hold on, give me a second. So one thing that got mentioned earlier, I think Willie brought it up, is the Christmas dinner at one of the churches behind the lines. There's a lot of lore and myth around that one, a lot of misunderstandings. There's a famous photo of it. Who's even in the photo is very difficult to tell because it's not the best quality. The Seaforths have a copy of it, I believe. It's on their website. They don't know if it's even them. They're not sure, right? And they do have a fantastic job of tracking their history. One of the best in Canada at the regimental level, and they're not sure who's where. Like, I mean, the Seaforths are part of it. Others, Canadians, are part of it. They kind of rotated the men out, let them come back, have a Christmas dinner, have a beer, and then go back. So in the original video, and one of the things that struck me the most is some of the men in that photo, the famous photo, that was their last meal. They went back to the lines, were killed because the fighting goes on past Christmas, not till the 27th. The Germans finally kind of give up the ghost and get out. They were, finally given the okay to retreat out. So that kind of goes back to the point I was talking about earlier, is this battle becomes important because it's important, right? Yeah. Well, and Smokey Smith, as we all know, talking about him on Twitter the other day, it was a risk also to get back, right? Men were killed on the way back, on the way there and back. It was brutal, as you can see. Like, it's very condensed, very small battlefield. So yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, and GD's the same thing. Getting there and back, most dangerous part, right? Because you can hunker down, but if you got to move, very difficult. Andreas, any movies about this battle? No, not as far as I know. Nothing, I don't think. Nothing major. There's not even a heritage minute about Ortona, I don't think. If I'm wrong, please correct me. Or if you know of any examples, or if it's touched on in anything, please leave it in the comments actually down below so other people can check it out. I don't think so, though, unfortunately. I mean, we don't do a good job of this as Canadians, telling our own story. Another impetus of, I wasn't really going to talk about this, but another impetus of why I wanted to do Ortona. I can't remember who it was. I don't want to call anybody out anyway. It was somewhere, someone tweet, I don't know, maybe it was around the anniversary. I don't really remember who it was, doesn't matter, but claimed it was the 8th Army that took Ortona, which is not incorrect. No mention of Canada whatsoever, Canadians whatsoever at Ortona. And I was not the only one. I went, what is happening here? You're literally writing Canada out of Ortona. This is one of the few engagements that's like near purely Canadian units, right? It is Canadian units here doing the heavy fighting, and they're written out. So we as our own don't do a good job, but when other people start to jump on it and write us out, that's not okay. So I want to tell these stories as best I can to get people engaged with, the circumstances I have. Yeah, there's documentaries and things of the like. Same kind of thing, right? Footage, photos, giving accounts, veterans, that kind of thing, but not movies per se. Yeah, so that's that. They pull back. Casualty numbers are high. So the 1st Division, I did it based on the division because I was trying to keep it high level for the work I was doing. So there's 2,339 casualties from the 1st Division for this chunk of fighting, with 502 killed. A huge number of casualties that they need to rest and refit after. Hold on, I just wrote the German stuff down somewhere else. So the actual number of Canadians killed inside Ortona, again, if I'm wrong, please correct me, because I would be really interested to know this, actually, because all the research, and I dug and dug and dug and dug and dug, and then dug and dug some more. There's no account of how many Canadians died in Ortona. What is Ortona? I don't know. Starting from a date, I don't know, but there's no account. Like, you can't say, like, this number of Canadians died. in the streets, right? It's high number, but we don't know for sure because you have, like I already said, the fighting in the Gully, getting across the river, all that stuff, and that's where they're buried, which has just been mentioned by Nicholas Patton here about the Moro River Cemetery where the casualties are buried, the ones that were recovered. So again, the numbers are a bit unclear in terms of who or even what Ortona is, right? People will argue that until the end of days, basically what constitutes a certain part of a battle. So we see with Normandy all the time. Where are the Germans? Okay, German losses. Again, I couldn't drill down any better. So this, again, brutal battle. The figure I found was 860 German casualties. Again, I couldn't differentiate killed from wounded or POW. I couldn't drill enough into that with the time and the resources I had. And I didn't have time and resources for this either. I'm just using old stuff. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time as I would have liked to put this together and get down and do some more research. I wanted to, it just didn't happen. So yeah. So, thanks, Susan. That is very nice of you to say. Sorry, just 1 second here. Also, if you want to become a patron of the channel, that would be greatly appreciated. You can check that out in the description below. So another area I want to talk about that doesn't get discussed, I think, fairly enough, I don't think I'm the only one, is the civilian costs, right? This is an urban battle. The civilian population is not evacuated before the fighting begins in the area at all. They suffer heavily, heavily, heavily in this. The stories you hear, I'm going to read one in a minute, are awful. They come back to their home that's been shattered. Some of them are there the whole time. There's photos of them, civilians with Canadians, as this is going on. It's so heartbreaking in a lot of ways. And it's just so not discussed in this, right? When you get into the nitty gritty of the military history, traditional details, right? Of, advances and timelines and units and all that stuff, is the civilians get lost in the shuffle in this one, especially. And it's so heartbreaking in so many ways. Also because, again, like I said, the footage from this battle and afterwards has really made an impact on me when I put the first video together, because there's civilians in it too, right? They have footage of them coming back into the town after the fighting is over, or coming out from wherever. I don't know. They're not really clear on that. But again, there's children, very small children, all kinds of age groups, older people. It's just, it's a brutal one in terms of all of that. So again, these are all estimates. Again, the best I could find was civilian deaths. Again, so this specified deaths, which is a lot. It's a lot, but 1,314 civilian dead, and that's dead. That's a lot of dead. It's a lot. Sorry, the comments are building up on me. Oh, they're back. Dang bots. Sorry. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the legacy in a minute because I can't not. And just popping this up. Yeah, Bloody Crew. I did hear about this. It's in Italian, entirely made in Italy, I believe. It's in Italian. It's presented in Italian. I heard about the trailer as well. I haven't heard anything since. So if anyone has any details, especially later, please leave them comment below. Let us know. Or if you know something now, please tell us. Yeah, so that being said, I don't want to, so I'm not going to end on this, but it's another story I feel like I've got to read. So this is another testimony I found from a soldier connected to the Ortona fighting. His name is Alec McGinnis from the West Nova Scotia Regiment. Sorry. So it's heartbreaking, and it's gonna be a tough one. But I feel like, again, the costs of war are often forgotten, and we need to hear them. So, and I'll just quote, and I won't stop with my own thoughts at all. So I wrote a little story about an experience that I had. It was on Christmas Day, 1943. It was for the control of the little town of Ortona. The story is called My Little Son Was the Stranger. I never knew his name. It was for the control of the medieval town that I met him at Ortona. Going across no man's land, I saw this little boy, mortally wounded. I took his little hand in mine. Tears in front of my eyes were that of how afraid he must have been, with no mother to hold him or comfort him as he lay there dying on a blood-soaked battlefield among the dead and dying soldiers. This little guy never left me. He travels with me at night. He never gets any older. He is forever destined to remain young, around the age of 8 or 9. It was Christmas Day, 1943, which made the scene sadder. It was my 4th Christmas away from my family, and not a very happy one. A lot of children die in wars. We have to find a way to solve problems without killing on some battlefield where innocent become casualties. What I've tried to do in my story is tell people that just because the guns fall silent on the battlefield and the smoke clears for the combat soldier, his war just begins with the nightmares and the bad dreams. All I can say to my little friend is, I'm sure we will travel again. I'm sorry I had to leave you. You were just too young to die in war. So long, little guy. I love you. Your adoptive father, Alec. So it's, that's, sorry, this is also really an opportune time for these comments to be popping up. Come on. Sorry, it's fighting back. Okay. I'll have to try and do that later. Sorry, I'll have to block some of these users later. So that story, hopefully, if it didn't come through, please tell me I can do it again, because I seem to be having Wi-Fi trouble. It's a heartbreaking story. This cost of the war, the cost of this battle. Talk about prowess of units, all that stuff till we're blue in the face. At the end of the day, it's children getting killed. It's heartbreaking, and that's all there is to it. I mean, the level of casualties is so high. So also with Ortona, taking of the town, I can go back in the map actually. Doesn't really end, kind of the misery in the area. They try to push forward. Sorry, the Canadians. This is where, third Brigade comes back in to the story because they move around. Comes back around and flanks and moves up to the I hope I'm not pronouncing it again correctly. The Rico River. But again, that's where it stops. The weather gets worse. Alex mentioned general mud earlier. The conditions get worse. This is where it stops for months. The Canadians are stuck in what becomes known as the Ortona salient for months and months and months until they get moved down to the west side of the peninsula and get involved in what we in Canada call the Leary Valley Campaign after the taking of the actual Monte Cassino. They're stuck in this, all kinds of stories about the awful conditions, the patrolling. It becomes another one of those extended periods. It's almost like a precursor to Korea, just constant patrols and terrible, terrible conditions. Weather playing havoc, rain, water, mud, snow, everything you can think of is pummeling them. And it's just plain awful. So I found another description of that. So the attacks just don't go as well as they would like. So this one is from, this is the last one of the accounts I found from a soldier that I wanted to read. So his name's Timon, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Arsenault of the New Brunswick Hussars, the 8th Canadian Hussars, Prince Louis Regiment. They have a very, very long name that changes throughout the war. I've done some work on them, so it's complicated. So this is his experience in the salient. So outside of Ortona, 2 months, January and February 1944, the infantry was fighting in the city and we were on guard. The fighting was over, obviously. We were lying down in trenches that were 14 or 15 inches deep, and we each had a small tent that was big enough for 2 people to bring your knees up under. In our tents that we had was a mattress and some tree branches with a ground sheet and a blanket on top. We only had 2 blankets each, one underneath and one on top. That was it. That's where we slept. We were completely soaked through. Sometimes too soaked to dry our clothes on or to sleep. And this goes on for months. Months and months and months and months and months. It just continues to go on. They got to hold a position in these terrible, terrible, terrible weather. It's so interesting, right, that we talk about this. I think I was talking about this on Twitter the other day or somewhere. a whole thing about when they pull 1st Division and 5th Armored Operation Goldflake out of Italy, right? Some were saying they should have stayed there, or the troops wanted to stay there. A lot of the accounts I read, they were happy to get out of there. Italy was a nightmare. It wasn't a vacation spot for them. This is the whole thing with the D-Day Dodgers, right? That whole song, right? It's tongue-in-cheek, but it's also incredibly powerful in that terms, right? Because they're like, we died here in terrible conditions. This isn't a vacation. It's awful. So that just part and parcel of this, the Ortona salient, which hardly ever gets discussed, right? It's just they had Christmas dinner, the battle ends. That's it. So I wanted to bring those, especially those who might not know as much, up to speed on that. So I'll link the work I did on the Italian campaign with Brigade 44, the whole thing after, because that was again, I just did the narrative. Everything else was done by the great team there. So it's good and it's great, and they do all kinds of stuff. Yeah, and the lack of supplies and all of that is also an issue as well. Causing an issue. Sorry, the bots keep coming back. I really got to stop them somehow. Stop coming back. Oh, the bots are testing my patience today. It keeps stopping me from blocking them. Come on. Anyway, so that's that. I wanted to talk about Monte Cassino. So again, because that's the next major area that the Canadians go after Ortona, is they go to Monte Cassino and they push up the Larry Valley, and quite successful at that. So it was Andreas, I believe, who started it off talking about Monte Cassino. Lots of comments today, guys. Thank you. Sorry, it was going crazy on me. Sorry, I'm just trying to find it. Yeah, so Andreas was talking about how Ortona is interesting, especially from a German perspective as well, which I agree. But Monte Cassino gets all the attention. So for Canada, they're connected, right? Because you have one to the other, right? Ortona, salient, terrible conditions I was just talking about. Yes, Andre. Yes, Ortona is very sexy. Sexy Italian maps. It's like the sports cars. Very sexy. Yeah, Lady Esther just thought they were lounging around in the Italian sun. I don't think they saw the sun. Yeah. Anyway, so there's that connection, right, between casino. We don't want to call it casino, which is interesting. I wonder why. Because we pushed past it, I guess, is my best bet. Again, I've never studied the whole naming conventions of that one, but that's my guess. So Ortona has an interesting legacy in Canada. It's well discussed. It's not very controversial in that sense, like others. It doesn't get as much attention as I think it deserves. It's often in the news around Christmas time because of the Christmas dinner thing. But that's about it. Next year might be different because of the anniversary, an important date, right? That could change it. There's that documentary. I don't know. Again, I think it was Great Dominion was mentioning that it might not be, here it is, accessible for free. Like you got to get it from the website of the distributor, which would make sense, which is interesting in this day and age. Because you can probably make more money doing it the other way. So it's an interesting legacy that gets discussed in and out. This is what I want to talk about. So from Ivan, who's been on the channel, talking about Kiska. Canadian production seemed to focus on the First World War. Yes, I've talked about that before. Vimy especially gets the attention, which is, I don't think, right. But that's not about today. But in terms of legacy, I think that's an important part of this, is what gets remembered and what doesn't. Vimy takes up so much of the attention, the other ones get forgotten. And then as Canadians don't tend to tell these stories, which I'm trying to change. I'm just one person. It's very difficult to keep doing this by myself and do anything with any real impact. So I need your help to share and comment and like and keep watching. I can't stress how much the watching means to me personally. I mean, it's great that you guys want to hang out and hear me talk and get involved. It's fantastic. I love it. A bit of an ego boost for not much of an ego that I have. But it's amazing that you guys are wanting to hear and learn. It's fantastic. We got another comment here. Yeah, I mean, that would be great to do. Lucky. Not lucky, because I know you'll be working. And you do great work, Dave. As I keep saying, sing your praises until forever. Because, well, I've already told you the impact that the tour you led me on obviously led to these things. So it had a huge impact on my life. Battle of Hong Kong. Yeah, like you mean in terms of not being talked about, Susan? Yeah, probably. Same thing. Even though this is a victory, Hong Kong's a defeat. Which you talked about in that, Fascination with Defeat podcast, or show. I shouldn't call it a podcast. I'm not a podcaster. Yeah, so that's that. Any other questions, comments, fire away. What I want to talk about. I had one thing written down. Oh, yes. So I'm going to be doing a live stream again coming up on the 14th at 2 p.m. Eastern with Matt Bartlett. No, not Bartlett. Barrett. Sorry, Matt. Sorry. Let me try that again. Matt Barrett is coming on. So as we talked about last time when about his book Conspicuous, was a Scandalous Conduct about Canadian officers in the both world wars. He's also a great artist. So we talked about his Hill 70 book. So we're going to be talking about that because it's available now. It's available to be purchased. So we'll be talking about where you can get it, all of that stuff, talking about how he came to this project. I mean, I already know the story. It's fantastic, and I'm excited to have him on to talk about that. So that'll be on the 14th. So that's the day before the anniversary of the battle, because the battle begins on the 15th. So we'll have that coming up. I might do a live stream tomorrow from a ceremony I'm going to. I don't know how it's going to be set up or anything like that. They're unveiling a plaque related to the code breaking that a good chunk of Canadians did here in Ottawa. A good chunk of Canadian women, especially, and breaking codes. So I'm going to be going to that. So stay tuned for that. It's early our morning, well, early-ish, 10:30. So again, that plays with different time zones. So stay tuned for that. And I'm going to be doing another show on like this on Saint Lambert sur Dives. I'm not sure when. I'll figure that out, and I'll let everybody know on as many outlets as possible. Yeah, so that's that plan. So sorry, I got some questions here. Yeah, it's gonna be hot. Yeah, Andres is right. Oh, I got some water for a second here. Yeah, really hot, especially in Sicily. But that's the anniversary, right? And you want to get a feel of kind of the slightest way what it's like, especially in Sicily. That's the way to do it. I've never been, but that's what people who have told me. Yeah, maybe Susan, maybe you're right. You know more about his Asian American connections to China. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that, we can talk about that another time. I'm not sure how that all interplays in the United States, because it's a bit of a different story up here, right? With who knows what and where and how. And I mean, there's so many now Canadians with a Hong Kong connection, which is amazing, right? We've immigrated from Hong Kong, now live in Canada. So we get that double connection. It's great. Anyway, the commanders, I mean, like I said, I hadn't really focused on like the high. It was really, really high level, or I was doing really, really, really nitty gritty. Like I was doing like quotes and like figuring out what happened at certain piazzas and things like that to try and understand it. So in terms, this is my opinion. It's just a general one. It's not the one I know is best. It's fairly well done. I mean, the conditions are the conditions. What can you do with a lot of this? They tried to flank it. They need the road access. The country is difficult. Like the whole things we talked about. It's one of those things where you're almost like, well, what point can we keep doing here, right? I think the recognition to switch out the brigades shows a lot of intelligence in that element and the ability to communicate and all of that. Try not to sing the praises of Oaks too much because he made some other mistakes, but I mean, that's one of them. I think it's good in terms of that. So hopefully that kind of answers what you're looking for. Because again, it's just urban, it's a brawl, right? How much coaching can you do when it's just a big punch up? It's difficult to say, right? That goes down to the sub-lantern level, the NCO level at that point. So this is kind of the whole impetus of all of this, Scott, right? Folks bashing. God, you can read my brain. Dave's is in my brain. I don't want to focus too much on folks because it's not what I wanted to do. What was I saying? Yeah, so this is why the whole thing I wanted to do Ortona, because it's the one I did the most work on, right? Is because I did that video a long time ago now. It's over a year now. So I did a lot of digging on that one, and this is why, because I had to take it down. because I got an issue with monetization and trying to get the little bit of ad revenue and things I can get for the channel, that kind of thing, and support in that way, because I can enable all the monetization stuff, which finally has happened. Today was the day. Actually, it's taken forever because of all kinds of reasons. So in terms of that, CBC is not happy about it. They don't share them. They're on their own website. They're there, but you can't access them easily. I know they're on the Internet Archive, but YouTube and CBC will not be happy with sharing them, even though they're Crown Corporation and these are what, almost 80 years old. People are not happy. Yeah, I wish I could have done something with them, but I just don't think that's going to happen, and I don't know if I'll have the time. To be honest, I just don't. I didn't want. Oh, they're back. God, these bots are driving me crazy. Yeah, sorry. I forgot what I was saying. Keep getting distracted by these damn bots. Oh yeah, CBC. Yeah, so like I'm gonna try and keep the channel my own stuff, right? Things I videotape, live streams, that kind of thing. I don't want to get in trouble with that again, because again, the monetization is huge and the help to me. I mean, it's not much, but it's very helpful in terms of that. So because I need to pay the bills, right? Yeah. So let's see if I've missed anything else. Love to see you guys chatting, which is amazing. Cryptography. Oh, I didn't know it was closed. That in DC, I assume. I haven't been to DC in a very long time. Love that city. Great city. So many things to look at. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, Dave. Throwing the individual battalions in there when that was clearly not working at the Gully. Fair criticism in that sense. But I mean, the conditions are limiting. A whole brigade in there is just going to be a slaughter pen. So I don't know. I mean, going around worked, right? The flanking worked. I don't know. I don't know really what to say, to be honest. Oh, okay. I did not know that. That would be an awesome comparison that someone could do. I don't know if it would be me, but that would be north of DC. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. That would be cool. Maybe get someone on to talk about that at some point in the future. If they're at the same time, especially, that gives me some time to do some planning and digging. If anybody knows anybody, well, if anybody knows or is watching who knows that, or is a New Zealand, New Zealander expert, New Zealand expert, Kiwi expert, not the fruit, or wants to come on and talk about it, that would be stupendous. That would be amazing to compare them and discuss them. That would be awesome. So we'll see. But yeah, that's a good idea. So yeah, the next live stream battle one will be, like I said, St. Lambert or Deves, because I did a lot of digging on that, as well as Project 44. They've been good to me. I will call Peter Jackson. Yes, please do, Dave. You must know him. Please call him and his lots of deep pockets. And bring some hobbits along if necessary, and whatever else he's working on now. It's Beatles documentary, I think, was his last big thing. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of television anymore. I'm working too much. Yeah, so that would be awesome. Oh, thanks, Nicholas. That is amazing for you to say that. Yeah, so thank you. Try to keep it up. I keep saying this, but I think this month coming up is going to be my watershed month where things might change. I wasn't planning on talking about this today, but I'll just talk about it very briefly. I'll be updating my patrons probably soonish, just because I want to keep the information. Nothing is determined yet, but I want to keep the information small at first, just because of all kinds of reasons. So if you would like to hear about that, please become a patron. Also help me support the channel. So things I think are changing this month for me. So with that said, OTD is not going anywhere. I'm going to keep doing this regardless of what goes on. I just like it too much. I've been thinking about it, right? It's like people are like, is it a hobby or work? And I kind of go both in a sense, right? I do other things to pay the bills, but things might be changing in that regard, just based on how some stuff has gone. So that said, I'll be updating my patrons maybe next week, maybe the week after. I don't know yet. Just waiting for all kinds of things to get figured out that are out of my hands. Anyway, with that said, yeah, so please check it out. I'll put some stuff down below. I've already linked the Canadian Encyclopedia article on Ortona. I think it's a good place to start. Juno Beach Center has an article as well. I will link that maybe later, just because I got some stuff to do right now. That was really cool to read. It was real helpful for me. Yeah, there's lots of other stuff that I'll probably link later as well. Maybe some of those newsreels, but they're also very easy to find. If you just put in Canadian Army newsreel Ortona, it should pop up. I think there's 2 that have Ortona footage, the battle and the aftermath, and particularly, the smash state of the town. It's quite shocking to see it. Yeah, so I think that's it. I don't think I missed anybody's questions. So thanks to everyone for coming out. There might be a live stream tomorrow morning Eastern time. We will see. I'll see how the ceremony goes and who's involved and all of that. I don't know much. Yeah, so it sounds like Italy's getting lots of attention for next year, which is awesome. Yeah, going further north would be pretty awesome. Something I'd love to do. I haven't been to Italy at all, so this is something all I want to do, right? I want to see all of it. So anyway, yeah. Oh, and also I linked Mark Zuehlke's book down below if you want to buy that and help me out. That would be stupendous. Get a little bit of commissions, not much, but it's also a great book if you can just get it. However you can get it, please do. Maybe 10:30 a.m. is when it's supposed to start, but again, I don't know the details. I don't know this group who's doing it. It's the government, but I don't know them. Like I did with the Hong Kong, I knew how they were going to do it. This one, I have no idea. Anyway, so everyone, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, possibly tomorrow morning. Oh, wait, not going to stop. Oh, fake out here. Yes, I forgot to mention this. So Nicholas is correct. The War Amps has a whole catalog of the reports in their YouTube. They have all of them. So does Library and Archives Canada, and this is more than just Ortona. This is what I was using for the footage, which I will no longer be doing. But also the War Amps collated all of it. So you can, if you find the PDF, which should be easy to find, if you go to War Amps and just Canadian newsreels, it should pop up, and it has all the details. It's a stupendous, amazing resource that you can use just to watch stuff, because Canadian stuff just doesn't get the attention it deserves. So, all right, I will see everyone possibly tomorrow, but also keep an eye on all the social media in here as well for updates on stuff coming up. All right, have a good rest of your day, everyone. Bye.